Hi, class. My name is Jibid, and now that Luz has introduced our theme of nature and simplicity, I'll be focusing on the figurative language that Wallace Stevens has deployed to be able to show our nature and simplicity theme in this poem. And we start off strong here. Our first example is an example of metaphor in stanza 3, where he writes, "The blackbird whirled in the autumn winds. It was a small part of the pantomime." Personally, I love this line. It I feel like I'm watching a David Attenborough documentary. I feel like the image is zooming in on this blackbird, and it's making it feel so powerful and whirling in the autumn wind. You feel like there's all this strong flapping of the wings going on, and there's all this wind going on, and it I feel like there's this image of minimizing and zooming in on this blackbird and then maximizing back out and saying that it was all a small part of the pantomime, and the pantomime obviously is nature. That's our setting, and in these lines, um, we see nature being the stage and the blackbird being the performer flying in the powerful wind. And it's beautiful because Stevens and his metaphysical poetry ideology is what brings this out. It's zooming in on this blackbird and making the blackbird feel like it's such an important part of nature, but in reality the flapping of the winds isn't there. There's no whirling in the autumn winds in reality, of course, but for the blackbird and for the audience following along with the blackbird, this is great imagery. And this idea of simplicity and the blackbird um, kind of seeps through the entire poem, which we see with our next example, in the fourth stanza, where he uses repetition, where he says, "A man and a woman are one. A man and a woman and a blackbird are one." Now, the similarity of these lines creates a unity, a unified perception among humanity and other living beings, in this case, the living being a blackbird, and it emphasizes through the repetition of the words are, woman, and one, that they are an essential part of nature. Like a blackbird, we are minimized to our animalistic and natural beings, and in that sense, we are all extremely connected. And that's kind of what Stevens wants us to grasp from this. And as we move on, Stevens wants us to understand the beauty of the blackbird, and the beauty of the blackbird specifically in nature, which brings us to our next example, which was in stanza 5, where he says, "The beauty of inflections, or the beauty of innuendos." Now, the inflections is the singing and the tone of the bird, and the innuendos is the silence. So he's juxtaposing the silence and the singing, and these two beauties are being compared, and the speaker's trying to figure out which sound would be the most pleasant or the sweetest to hear, and the speaker calls the sound, or lack thereof, both beauties, meaning he'd enjoy either. Now, this, I think, is very easy for humans to realize. We seek out nature. To us, to especially to humans, the sound of a bird and silence are both beautiful to us and are both charming. And most of the time, they're in the same area. We go out hiking, and you say, "Oh, a bird singing and a silence." I mean, it's all simultaneous to us. And to focus on that, I think, brings to light the importance of the blackbird, and kind of connects it and makes it easier to understand for the normal reader. And lastly, Stevens brings up a very interesting point with his last example, where he says, "Oh, thin men of Haddam, why do you imagine golden birds? Do you not see how the blackbird walks around the feet of the women about you?" Here, the speaker is talking to the men of Haddam, which is the town in Connecticut that Stevens usually refers to. And this simple creature, the blackbird, is being overlooked and not being cherished enough. But at the same time, the stanza also portrays the blackbird as powerful and fearless and clearly usurping the world of men. And I think there's a very important issue of ego that can fall into this stanza. Uh, to us, I mean, this golden bird can be so many different things. It's whatever is preferred, you know? It's a tall guy over a short guy, a blonde hair over brown hair, anything, you know, a fast car over an old car. That's what this golden bird is. Do you not see how the blackbird walks around the feet of the women about you? So as you're focusing on the lion, you don't notice that the snake is already by your feet. That's kind of what he's saying, you know, that we underestimate ourselves and we underestimate so many things, and later on we don't realize their threat, which is what Stevens wants us to understand with this. And I think this all ties into his nature and simplicity, because he just wants us to realize that this is very common, and even the most insignificant animal, the blackbird, can, in so many ways, obviously be connected to human beings and our way of life. um, Blackbird whirling in the autumn wind. I mean, that just shows us, you know, when we think humans, you know, run the world, we're the best of the best, cream of the crop. But then when you focus on other animals, we notice how beautiful they are. We, like the blackbird, are also a small part of the pantomime. You know, like the blackbird, we are just man and woman. We're minimized. Stevens minimizes us to our animalistic selves, bringing us back down to reality, honestly. And it's just an extremely beautiful way to connect a small bird to giant humans. And now I'll be passing the baton to my group mate, Angel.